Ladies and gentlemen, we gather here today to address a topic that strikes at the heart of who we are and who we can become. The demons that haunt our families, our friendships, and sometimes even ourselves. These aren't always the ones you think of in terms of supernatural creatures. No, I'm speaking about the silent forces that influence, shape, and often control our relationships in ways we cannot immediately see. There are unseen forces in our lives, especially within the close relationships we hold most dear, that work beneath the surface. These forces often wear the guise of negative emotions, unresolved pain, and toxic behaviors. It's easy to dismiss them or ignore them, but the truth is, these forces are very real and they shape our daily lives. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where a simple family gathering turns into chaos because of unresolved issues from the past? Or maybe you've had friendships that once seemed strong, only to realize they were slowly eroding under the weight of jealousy, bitterness, or unforgiveness. These are the demons I'm speaking of. We must understand that these patterns often do not start with us. They've been passed down through generations. Our families have carried them through the years. Unhealed wounds, undelivered promises, cycles of pain and confusion. And though we may be unaware of it, these generational forces have a tremendous influence over how we think, feel, and relate to one another. It's not just about the external actions we see in others. It's the internal battles they're fighting. Many are bound in emotional and mental chains, dealing with insecurity, fear, anxiety, and unresolved trauma. These chains can manifest as anger, as bitterness, as jealousy. And as much as we love those around us, we must admit that sometimes those demons show up in our closest relationships. We feel trapped by them, as if there's nothing we can do to break free. But there is a way. We must acknowledge that we are not just fighting human nature, but spiritual forces that often work behind the scenes, trying to keep us divided. It's a battle not of flesh and blood, but a battle of spirits. Forces trying to disrupt our peace, our unity, and our ability to love one another. If we are to break free from these forces, we must first confront them. It's not enough to let them continue in our families or friendships. We must choose to break the cycle. And breaking that cycle requires conscious effort, healing, and sometimes the courage to forgive. It takes a strong heart to face the wounds of the past, to confront the demons within ourselves and those we love, and to make the decision to heal. Healing begins when we acknowledge the hurt. It starts when we say, I will no longer allow these patterns to continue. I will no longer carry the weight of these wounds from the past. I will no longer allow the demons of my family, my friends, or my own heart to control me. But healing is not a journey we walk alone. We must empower ourselves and those around us with love. True love is transformative. It breaks down walls, tears down strongholds, and casts out fear. It empowers. We must love with grace, understand with compassion, and seek to uplift rather than condemn. Only in this environment can healing truly begin. As we move forward, we are not helpless in the face of these challenges. We are empowered to overcome. We are more than the sum of our past. There are forces in our lives that we cannot always see, but which have a profound impact on how we live, how we interact with others, and the course our relationships take. These are not forces of nature, but forces of the Spirit. Hidden forces, often deep within the hearts of those closest to us, that influence behavior, attitudes, and outcomes in ways we cannot always understand. These forces are subtle, sometimes deceptive, and often insidious. They work quietly in the background, sometimes so deeply ingrained that we fail to notice their effects until it's too late. They influence our actions, mold our perceptions, and even dictate our decisions, all while remaining hidden in plain sight. These hidden forces can be deeply rooted in unresolved pain, old wounds, or unspoken truths within families and friendships. You've seen it before. A family dynamic that seems outwardly healthy, yet something always feels off. Tensions that rise inexplicably, a sense of unease, or a sudden change in behavior that no one quite knows how to explain. It's easy to attribute these things to simple misunderstandings or personality conflicts, but often they are the result of deeper forces at work. Forces we can't always see, but that shape the course of our lives. Sometimes these forces are born from negative cycles within a family, patterns of behavior passed down through generations, whether it's a spirit of unforgiveness, an addiction, or a critical mindset, can create a chain of dysfunction that lingers through the years, affecting everyone in its path. These behaviors and patterns often form like a fog around us, so pervasive that we can no longer distinguish where they begin and where we end. What's more, these forces are not always external. They often arise from within ourselves. Our unresolved emotions, old hurts, feelings of inadequacy, or fear of failure can all serve as hidden forces, sabotaging our relationships without us even realizing it. At times, these forces act like an undercurrent in our lives. Can be included in this relationship. So many people say to me over and over, and I want to do the right thing. Don't get me wrong, I believe and believe and believe, and there is. But there is. It causes us to react in ways that don't make sense, to hurt others without intending to, or to build walls where there should be bridges. And the hardest part is that often we don't know how to identify or stop them because they seem so normal, so ingrained, that we've come to believe they are just part of the natural order of things. But we must recognize that these hidden forces are not just the result of our own flaws or failings. They often stem from spiritual influences, forces beyond our understanding that work to disrupt peace, unity, and love. These hidden forces are not just part of our human experience. They are part of a greater struggle, one that exists in the spiritual realm. Whether we acknowledge them or not, they are present, trying to keep us from becoming the people we were meant to be. Understanding the impact of these forces means seeing beyond the physical and emotional layers of our relationships. and recognizing that sometimes there is a deeper battle taking place. This is why it is so important to be vigilant, to cultivate awareness of the unseen forces at work in our lives and to actively fight against them. These forces will not simply disappear on their own. They require us to confront them, to understand their origins, and to find the strength to break free from their hold. Only then can we begin to heal the wounds they have caused, both in ourselves and in our relationships with those we love. The people we surround ourselves with, especially family and friends, carry an incredible amount of influence over our lives. We often underestimate just how powerful that influence can be. Our interactions, our attitudes, our behaviors, even our very thoughts are deeply shaped by the environment in which we find ourselves. When we are constantly surrounded by negativity, criticism, or toxic patterns of behavior, it's only a matter of time before those energies start to seep into our own lives. Whether we realize it or not, we begin to adopt the same mindsets, the same fears, the same doubts that those around us hold. On the other hand, when we surround ourselves with positivity, encouragement, and love, the influence is equally powerful. We find ourselves becoming more confident, more optimistic, more open to growth. The people closest to us become mirrors of our own thoughts and desires, reflecting back to us our potential, our strengths, and even our weaknesses. This is why it is so important to carefully choose the company we keep. The influence of others, whether positive or negative, can determine not just the course of our relationships, but the very direction of our lives. For example, think about the kind of conversations you engage in regularly. Are they filled with complaints, judgments, and gossip, or are they uplifting, constructive, and encouraging? The kinds of conversations we allow ourselves to be a part of have a profound effect on how we view the world and how we approach challenges. If we're surrounded by people who see the glass as half empty, we're likely to begin seeing it the same way. But when we're around those who see possibility in every situation, who have the faith to believe that challenges are opportunities for growth, it begins to change how we approach our own struggles. The same applies to emotional energy. The emotional state of those around us can easily influence our own emotional state. If someone close to us is perpetually anxious, angry, or fearful, those feelings can rub off on us. It becomes harder to stay centered, to maintain our peace, and to think clearly. In contrast, being around people who exhibit calmness, patience, and understanding helps us to cultivate those same qualities within ourselves. We may not even notice it at first, but slowly, we begin to mirror the behaviors and emotions of those we spend the most time with. This power of influence extends far beyond just the immediate impact on our emotions or thoughts. It can also shape the very decisions we make. Our beliefs, choices, and actions are often the result of the opinions and values of those we trust and respect. If we're surrounded by people who encourage us to chase our dreams, to take risks, to step out in faith, we're more likely to do so ourselves. But if we're surrounded by those who doubt us, who criticize our ambitions, or who convince us that certain goals are out of our reach, we begin to believe it. Even more subtle than this is the long-term effect of influence. Over time, the beliefs, behaviors, and patterns we observe in our family and friends begin to take root in our own lives. These influences can shape our own self-image, the way we view the world, and the way we approach relationships. If we are surrounded by people who lack confidence, who don't believe in their own worth, we can begin to internalize those beliefs. But conversely, when we are around people who love and believe in themselves, who encourage us to do the same, it fosters a sense of self-worth and empowerment that can carry us through even the toughest of times. The power of influence is not limited to personal interactions. It also extends to the ideas and philosophies we consume, the media we engage with, the books we read, the messages we internalize. All these things have an effect on the way we think and act. We are constantly being shaped by the information and narratives we allow into our lives. Whether through family stories, social media, or the opinions of our closest friends, we are continually absorbing new ideas and perspectives. The question is, are those ideas moving us closer to our goals, to our highest potential, or are they holding us back, keeping us trapped in limiting beliefs and unhealthy patterns? The power of influence in our lives is a reminder that we are not isolated beings. We are deeply connected to the people and the environments around us. We are constantly impacted by the attitudes, behaviors, and emotions of those we interact with, whether we recognize it or not. Understanding the power of influence calls us to be more intentional about who we allow into our lives and the kinds of environments we expose ourselves to. It challenges us to create spaces where positive, life-giving influence can flourish, spaces where we can grow, evolve, and ultimately become the best version of ourselves. We have the power to control that influence, to protect our minds and hearts from negativity, and to cultivate a circle that supports our growth and well-being. The relationships we choose and the environments we create will shape not just the course of our lives, but the legacy we leave behind. Generational curses are often invisible forces that subtly shape our lives in ways we may not fully understand. These curses are not curses in the sense of an external mystical power placed upon us, but rather they are the patterns, behaviors, and unresolved issues that are passed down from one generation to the next. They are like invisible threads that tie us to the past, pulling us into repeating cycles of dysfunction, pain, and brokenness. These patterns can be so ingrained in our family dynamics that we don't even realize they exist until they begin to manifest in our own lives. Sometimes we can trace the same struggles, the same emotional wounds, and the same toxic behaviors through the generations. Unresolved anger, addiction, fear, betrayal, or even poverty. And though we may want to escape them, we often find ourselves unconsciously repeating the same mistakes. Think about your own family history for a moment. How many of you have witnessed or experienced similar struggles that have been passed down over time? Perhaps there was a pattern of addiction that affected several generations, or a cycle of emotional abuse that carried on from one family member to another. Maybe it was a sense of insecurity, or a spirit of bitterness, or even financial struggles that seem to repeat themselves without any clear explanation. It's as though we're caught in a cycle, one we didn't create, but one that we somehow find ourselves a part of. Generational curses are often rooted in unhealed wounds, unresolved conflicts, or unmet needs that accumulate over time. When a past generation experiences deep pain, whether through betrayal, trauma, or injustice, that hurt often lingers in the environment of the family. The next generation, even if they didn't experience the original trauma directly, feels the weight of it, picking up the emotional and psychological scars without understanding their origin. They in turn pass these same unresolved issues on to their children, and the cycle continues unbroken from one generation to the next. But these patterns are not just emotional or psychological, they can affect every area of our lives. They shape our relationships, our choices, our finances, and even our health. For instance, if a family has a history of unhealthy relationships or broken marriages, children often grow up with a distorted view of love and relationships. They may carry fears of commitment, or they might repeat the same mistakes without realizing they are part of a larger inherited cycle. Similarly, if there is a long-standing financial struggle or poverty mindset, it's not unusual for future generations to adopt a similar view of money, wealth, and success. What makes generational curses so powerful is that they often operate in the background, influencing our decisions and actions without us even realizing it. It's only when we face a specific challenge or pattern that we begin to see the link between what we're experiencing and what those before us have gone through. These patterns, though invisible, can hold us captive and keep us from moving forward in life. And yet there's something incredibly powerful about recognizing and understanding these generational patterns. Once we see them, we can begin the work of breaking free from their grip. This requires a conscious effort to acknowledge the past without letting it define us. It takes courage to face the wounds of previous generations and make the decision not to pass them on. We have to be willing to challenge long-held beliefs, confront painful truths, and make choices that go against the grain of what's being passed down to us. The key to breaking these cycles is not simply to acknowledge their existence, but to actively heal them. This process often begins with forgiveness, both for ourselves and for those who may have unknowingly passed these issues down. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behaviors, but it means letting go of the emotional weight that keeps us tied to the past. It means choosing to release the hurt and move forward in freedom. We may need to forgive our ancestors, the people who hurt us, and even ourselves for perpetuating the same negative patterns. In doing so, we free ourselves from the chains of the past and create space for healing and transformation. But healing from generational curses is not just about breaking patterns. It's about rewriting the story for future generations. When we make the decision to heal and break free from these cycles, we don't just set ourselves free, we set our children and their children free as well. We become the catalyst for change, choosing to break the chains of the past and establish a new legacy of peace, wholeness, and abundance. By doing this, we create a ripple effect that will continue to transform lives long after we are gone. In many ways, breaking a generational curse is an act of spiritual warfare. It's a decision to no longer allow the past to dictate our future. It's a declaration of independence from the toxic cycles that have held us hostage. It requires faith, strength, and a willingness to confront the demons of the past with the belief that we have the power to overcome them. The key to overcoming generational curses lies in our ability to heal, to forgive, and to choose to live differently, regardless of what's come before us. It's in that freedom that we can create a new legacy, a legacy built on love, peace, prosperity, and healing for future generations. Emotional and mental bondage is a silent force that keeps many of us trapped in cycles of limitation and suffering. It's a kind of unseen captivity where we are bound not by physical chains, but by our own thoughts, feelings, and past experiences. This bondage can be just as real and just as damaging as any physical restraint. It manifests in the form of negative emotions, fear, anger, guilt, shame, resentment. And it keeps us from experiencing the fullness of freedom that we were meant to have. It holds us back from living the life we desire, from building healthy relationships, and from stepping into the purpose and potential we were created for. What makes emotional and mental bondage so difficult to recognize is that it often feels like a part of who we are. It becomes so ingrained in our way of thinking that we no longer question it. We believe that the negative self-talk we constantly engage in is just a reflection of reality, that the doubts, fears, and insecurities we hold are simply facts of life. We think that feeling stuck, defeated, or unworthy is something we must accept. But the truth is, these feelings are not the reality we are meant to live in. They're the result of unresolved emotions, past hurts, and false beliefs that we have been carrying for far too long. We've internalized them as truth, and because of that, they've become chains that bind us to a life of limitation. One of the most common forms of emotional and mental bondage comes from past trauma. Whether it's from childhood abuse, neglect, abandonment, or betrayal, these wounds create deep scars that influence how we view ourselves and the world. The emotional pain from these experiences doesn't simply vanish when we grow up. It often stays with us, hiding beneath the surface, ready to resurface when triggered. We may not consciously remember every hurt, but they affect our behavior, our reactions, and our relationships. A person who has experienced betrayal in the past may find it difficult to trust others, even if those people have done nothing to deserve that distrust. Someone who grew up with criticism and rejection might carry those feelings into adulthood, doubting their worth and believing that they are incapable of being loved. This emotional pain, if left unhealed, turns into mental bondage. It begins to shape the way we think, the way we see ourselves, and the way we interact with others. Negative beliefs take root, and we begin to tell ourselves stories that keep us stuck. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. People will always leave me. I'm not worthy of love or success. These are the chains we put on ourselves, often without even realizing we're doing it. Over time, these thoughts become automatic, a constant running narrative in our minds that shapes every decision we make, every relationship we form, and every opportunity we either pursue or let slip by. Mental bondage is equally destructive. It's the constant mental torture that tells us not capable, that we're not smart enough, that we don't deserve happiness. It's the inner critic that never shuts up, constantly pointing out our flaws, our shortcomings, our perceived failures. This mental noise prevents us from seeing our true potential, making it difficult to take risks, to step out in faith, or to pursue our dreams. It creates a sense of paralysis where we are unable to move forward because we are trapped in a constant state of self-doubt and fear. This mental prison keeps us from embracing opportunities, from achieving our goals, and from becoming the person we were meant to be. Emotional mental bondage is also deeply tied to how we see the world around us. If we have been hurt, we often develop a lens through which we see others and ourselves, a lens that distorts reality. We may begin to view the world as a hostile place, believing that everyone is out to hurt us, or that every situation will lead to disappointment. This negative outlook on life keeps us isolated and disconnected from others, perpetuating a cycle of loneliness and distrust. We become prisoners of our own perceptions, unable to see the truth that there is love, hope, and opportunity all around us, waiting for us to embrace it. Breaking free from emotional and mental bondage is not easy. It requires us to confront the very things that have held us captive for so long. It takes courage to look at our past wounds and acknowledge the pain that has been buried deep within us. It takes strength to challenge the false beliefs we've carried for years and to replace them with the truth of who we really are. This process often begins with a shift in mindset. We must start by understanding that we are not our past, we are not our failures, and we are not defined by the hurt we've experienced. We are not bound by the labels that others or even ourselves have placed upon us. We are free to change, to heal, and to become the person we were created to be. Healing from emotional and mental bondage involves learning how to think differently, to believe differently, and to feel differently. It means reprogramming our minds and hearts to reject the negative narratives that have kept us in prison and to embrace the truth of who we are: loved, capable, worthy, and free. It's about making a conscious decision to stop letting past pain control our future and to stop allowing the voices of doubt and fear to dictate our actions. It takes practice, persistence, and patience, but it is possible. When we begin to break free from emotional and mental bondage, we not only change our own lives, but we also change the lives of those around us. Our relationships improve, our confidence grows, and our capacity to love, trust, and be vulnerable expands. The chains that once held us tight begin to fall away, and we are free to move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. This freedom is the key to living the life we were meant to live. A life filled with joy, peace, and fulfillment. It all starts with a decision to confront and release the mental and emotional chains that have kept us in bondage for far too long. Spiritual warfare is a battle that takes place in a realm beyond the physical, yet it impacts every area of our lives. It's the unseen struggle between good and evil, light and darkness, right and wrong, where the stakes are much higher than just temporary struggles or inconveniences. This battle doesn't always manifest as dramatic or overt conflict. Often, it shows up in the subtle, everyday moments of our lives. It appears in the negative thoughts that plague us, the emotional heaviness that weighs us down, and the relational conflicts that seem to arise out of nowhere. It's the tension we feel when we try to do what's right, but we seem to face obstacles at every turn, like invisible forces pushing against us, trying to derail us from our purpose. Sir, the truth is, many of the challenges we face, whether it's personal struggles, relational issues, or even societal divisions, are not just random. There are deeper spiritual forces at work, forces that are actively trying to keep us from living the lives we were meant to live. These forces are not always obvious. They don't always manifest as something we can see, but they manifest in the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we act. It's easy to dismiss these struggles as mere coincidences, but they often stem from a spiritual opposition, a force that is actively working against our peace, our purpose, and our potential. Spiritual warfare is not only about facing external challenges, but also about the internal battles we fight within ourselves. It's the constant tug of war between doing what is right and giving in to negative impulses, temptations, and fears. It's the battle for our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. Every negative thought, every doubt, every feeling of unworthiness or insecurity is a part of that battle. These thoughts and feelings don't simply arise on their own. They are often a result of spiritual forces trying to pull us away from truth and from the identity that we are meant to live out. The more we align ourselves with these negative thoughts and feelings, the more we open ourselves to the influence of these spiritual forces. One of the most powerful weapons in spiritual warfare is our ability to recognize the nature of the battle. We must understand that we are not merely fighting against people, circumstances, or even our own limitations. We are fighting against spiritual forces that seek to keep us trapped in cycles of defeat, fear, and confusion. These forces want to keep us disconnected from our true selves, from our purpose, and from the people we are meant to become. They do so by attacking our identity, sowing seeds of doubt, and creating division. These forces operate through the negative messages we hear, the lies we believe, and the fears we harbor. But spiritual warfare is not something we face alone. There is power in recognizing that we have a greater strength on our side, a force greater than anything that seeks to harm us. We have the ability to stand firm in our faith, to fight with courage, and to stand against the lies that threaten to overtake us. The key to overcoming spiritual warfare is to realize that we don't have to fight it with our own strength alone. We can rely on the strength of the divine and the power of truth, on the armor that has been given to us. When we align ourselves with the truth of who we are, when we arm ourselves with faith, love, and wisdom, we become empowered to resist the forces that try to pull us away from our destiny. Spiritual warfare also involves understanding that the struggle is often for our mind and heart. We must guard our thoughts, for they are the doorway to our actions. If we allow ourselves to be consumed by fear, anger, or bitterness, we open the door for negativity to take root and control our behavior. But when we take control of our thoughts, when we choose to focus on peace, gratitude, and love, we shift the battle in our favor. This doesn't mean the struggle will be easy or that we won't face resistance, but it does mean that we have the tools to overcome, to stand firm, and to be victorious in the end. Another crucial aspect of spiritual warfare is prayer and faith. These are not mere religious practices, but powerful tools for protection and strength. Prayer is our communication with the divine, a way of fortifying ourselves with spiritual power. Through prayer, we can seek guidance, receive wisdom, and find peace in the midst of chaos. Faith becomes our shield, allowing us to stand firm in the face of adversity. Through prayer, we can seek guidance and support. Through prayer, we can seek confidence and support. It is through faith that we draw on divine strength, trusting that we are not alone in our battles and that we have access to resources beyond what we can see. Sometimes spiritual warfare manifests through people, through the attitudes, criticisms, and behaviors of those around us. When relationships become strained or when others try to pull us into negative cycles of drama, criticism, or division, it is often a sign that spiritual forces are at work. These forces don't just affect us individually, they try to disrupt the harmony and unity that we are meant to have with others. Division, jealousy, and discord are often the result of these forces trying to divide us, to keep us isolated and disconnected from one another. We must learn to recognize when these forces are at play and choose to respond with grace, love, and wisdom rather than reacting from a place of anger or fear. In spiritual warfare, we must remember that our battle is ultimately a battle for our soul, our sense of peace, purpose, and connection to the divine. These spiritual forces seek to keep us distracted, discouraged, and disoriented so that we lose sight of who we are and what we are capable of. But the power of spiritual warfare lies in the realization that we are not powerless. We are equipped with everything we need to overcome. We are equipped with the truth, with the strength of faith, with the power of love, and with the resilience that comes from knowing that we are never truly alone in our fight. By embracing these truths, by standing firm, and by trusting in the divine support we have, we are able to fight spiritual battles effectively, to overcome the forces that seek to hold us down, and to walk in the fullness of our purpose, free from the chains that would try to bind us. This is the victory we are called to walk in. victory over the spiritual forces that try to derail us, and a life that reflects the peace, strength, and freedom that are ours to claim. Breaking the cycle is not simply about changing behavior, but about transforming the very foundation of who we are. It is the process of identifying the patterns in our lives, those deep-rooted, recurring habits, mindsets, and ways of thinking that keep us stuck, and making the conscious decision to break free from them. These cycles can appear in many forms: cycles of poverty, unhealthy relationships, addiction, emotional turmoil, or self-doubt. They are patterns that we either inherited, adopted, or developed over time. And they often feel like an invisible force that controls our decisions, actions, and outcomes. Breaking these cycles is about reclaiming our power to choose, to change, and to create a new path for ourselves. At the heart of breaking the cycle is awareness. Often, we don't realize how deeply these patterns are ingrained in our lives. We may recognize the surface level outcomes, the repeated arguments in relationships, the financial struggles, or the emotional breakdowns, but we don't always understand the deeper causes. We may see the end result, but we miss the underlying reasons why we continue to fall into the same traps. Awareness is the first step toward change. It requires us to look closely at our own behavior, our thoughts, and the environment we've allowed to shape us. It involves facing uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our history. This may mean acknowledging the way our upbringing or past experiences have shaped our beliefs and actions, or it could mean confronting painful realities that we've avoided for years. Once we gain awareness, the next step in breaking the cycle is understanding that change requires more than just a shift in behavior. It requires a shift in mindset. We cannot break out of a cycle if we continue to think the same way that led us into it. For example, if we grew up in an environment where money was always scarce, we might develop a mindset of scarcity. We might believe that there is never enough, that we don't deserve to have abundance, or that wealth is something unattainable. This belief will inform every financial decision we make, keeping us stuck in a cycle of lack. Breaking that cycle requires not only changing how we spend or save money, but also changing the way we think about money, our value, and our ability to create wealth. We have to shift from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance, believing that there is more than enough to go around, that we are worthy of prosperity, and that we have the ability to attract and manage resources. Similarly, breaking the cycle in relationships requires shifting how we view ourselves and others. If we've been conditioned to believe that we are unworthy of love, or that we can only find validation through others, we are likely to attract unhealthy relationships. These relationships may perpetuate the very beliefs we hold about ourselves, reinforcing the idea that we are not enough or that love is conditional. Breaking this cycle requires deep inner work, where we learn to love ourselves, to set healthy boundaries, and to believe that we are worthy of love and respect without needing to prove it to anyone. This kind of transformation takes time, but it begins with a decision to stop repeating the patterns of the past and to rewrite the narrative we have been living. In many cases, breaking the cycle also involves confronting generational patterns that have been passed down from one generation to the next. These patterns might be the result of trauma, unhealthy coping mechanisms, or distorted beliefs that were inherited and internalized. For example, if we grew up in an environment where emotional expression was stifled, or where communication was always filled with conflict, we may carry these patterns into adulthood, repeating the same struggles in our own families. Breaking this cycle involved not just healing our own wounds, but understanding how they were passed down and choosing to heal them at the root. This requires both forgiveness and the courage to do things differently. whether it's learning to communicate in healthy ways, managing our emotions in a constructive manner, or choosing to be vulnerable and open instead of defensive or closed off. The power to break the cycle also lies in the decisions we make on a daily basis. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen through one grand gesture. It happens in the small, everyday choices we make. It's in the decision to respond differently when triggered, to stop a negative thought in its tracks, to walk away from a toxic situation, or to set a healthy boundary. It's about taking responsibility for our actions and recognizing that we have the ability to choose how we respond to the world around us. By consistently making choices that align with our new beliefs and values, we begin to break the old patterns and create new ones. Over time, these small, deliberate actions add up and begin to see the fruits of our efforts. A life that no longer feels controlled by the old cycles, but one that is defined by freedom, peace, and growth. Breaking the cycle is not a journey we are meant to take alone. Support and accountability are key components of lasting change. Whether through therapy, a support group, or trusted friends and family, having people who can walk alongside us, offer guidance, and hold us accountable can make all the difference. It's essential to surround ourselves with those who encourage us, who believe in our potential, and who are willing to hold us to the highest standard we are striving for. It's also important to have a source of strength, whether through spirituality, faith, or personal belief, that gives us the fortitude to keep going when the road gets tough. In moments of weakness or doubt, it's the support and belief of others and the inner strength we tap into that helps us continue on the path of transformation. Breaking the cycle involves embracing the idea of growth and transformation. It's understanding that we are not defined by our past mistakes, our upbringing, or our past failures. We have the power to change, to learn, and to grow into the person we are meant to be. Breaking the cycle is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about taking the steps, no matter how small, to heal, to grow, and to create a future that is different from our past. It's about choosing to break free from the limitations that have held us captive and to create a life that reflects our true potential and purpose. Every step forward, no matter how difficult, is a victory. And with each victory, we break the cycle a little more until we have created a new reality for ourselves and for those who come after us. Healing the wounds that we carry is a process that goes far beyond simply moving on or forgetting. These wounds, whether they stem from past trauma, betrayal, loss, or emotional neglect, leave lasting scars that can affect the way we view ourselves, others, and the world around us. What many fail to realize is that unhealed wounds don't just disappear over time. They stay with us, influencing our behaviors, our decisions, and the way we engage with life. They can manifest as feelings of insecurity, mistrust, fear, or even anger that we often struggle to explain. We may try to bury them, pretending they don't affect us, but deep down, they shape the choices we make and the way we experience the world. Healing is not about erasing these wounds, but about transforming them, learning from them, and finding peace in spite of them. At the core of healing is the understanding that healing is not linear. It doesn't happen in a straight line, and it's not something that can be fixed in a single moment or by simply wishing it away. Healing is often a messy, unpredictable journey that requires patience, self-compassion, and vulnerability. We can't rush it, and we can't expect to heal all at once. Sometimes healing requires going backward before we can go forward, revisiting old pain and uncovering emotions that we may have pushed aside for years. It takes time and effort, and the process often brings to the surface things we would rather avoid. But it is through this confrontation that we begin to truly understand the depth of our wounds and begin the work of releasing them. One of the first steps in healing is acknowledging the wound. We cannot heal what we are unwilling to face. Whether it's the pain of an abusive relationship, the hurt of being overlooked or abandoned, or the grief of losing someone we loved, these wounds must be recognized for what they are. Too often we hide from them, pretending that they don't matter or that we should be over it by now. But pretending only prolongs the suffering. When we take the time to acknowledge the hurt, to sit with it and understand it, we give ourselves the space to begin the healing process. It's in this moment of acknowledgement that we can start to separate ourselves from the wound and begin to see it as something that happened to us, not something that defines us. As we acknowledge our wounds, it's crucial to understand that healing is not about forgetting. Some people mistakenly think that healing means putting everything behind us and erasing the memories, but this is not the case. The memories may remain and the pain may resurface from time to time, but healing means no longer allowing these wounds to control us. Healing is about transforming the pain into something that no longer holds power over us. It's about reframing our understanding of the pain and realizing that while it shaped us, it does not have to define us. We learn to carry the lessons from our wounds without allowing them to dictate our future actions or our identity. Forgiveness is a crucial part of the healing process. Forgiveness is not for the person who wronged us, but for ourselves. Holding on to resentment and anger only keeps us tied to the past, perpetuating the very wounds we are trying to heal. Forgiveness allows us to release the grip that the pain has on our hearts, freeing us to move forward. This doesn't mean that what happened was okay or that we condone the wrong done to us, but it means that we refuse to let it control our emotional state. Forgiveness is a powerful act of self-liberation, a way of saying, I will not allow this pain to hold me captive any longer. It is not a one-time event, but a continual process of choosing to let go, to release the negative energy tied to our past, and to make space for healing to take place. Healing also requires self-compassion. We often hold ourselves to high standards, expecting that we should be strong and move on quickly, but the reality is that healing requires gentleness with ourselves. We must allow ourselves the time and space to grieve, to feel hurt, and to process our emotions. There's no timeline for healing, and there's no set way that we are supposed to feel. Some days the pain may feel overwhelming, and on other days we might feel like we've made tremendous progress. Both experiences are valid. Healing is about embracing all the emotions that come with the process: sadness, anger, confusion, or even relief, and giving ourselves permission to experience them without judgment. We must be kind to ourselves as we work through the pain, recognizing that it's okay to not be okay, and that healing is a journey, not a destination. Part of healing is also about reclaiming our power. When we are wounded, we often feel helpless or powerless, like we've been victims of circumstances. Healing involves recognizing that while we cannot change what has happened, we have the power to change how we respond to it. We reclaim our power by taking responsibility for our own healing and choosing to move forward, no longer allowing our past pain to dictate how we live our present. This doesn't mean ignoring our wounds or pretending they don't matter, but rather acknowledging that we have the strength to rise above them, to learn from them, and to grow because of them. It's about realizing that we are not broken. that we are not defined by our past, and that we have the ability to heal and transform ourselves. Support is also an essential part of the healing journey. We were not meant to walk this path alone. Healing is not a solitary pursuit. It is often through the support of others, whether through friendships, therapy, or faith, that we find the encouragement and strength we need to move forward. Sometimes simply having someone to listen, someone who understands our pain, is enough to help us heal. Others can provide perspective, offer empathy, and sometimes even share their own stories of healing, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. Through this connection, we realize that we are part of a greater human experience, one that includes both pain and healing. As we heal, we also learn to trust again. Trust is often one of the first casualties of deep emotional wounds. Whether we've been betrayed, abandoned, or hurt by someone we loved, healing means learning to trust again, not just others, but ourselves. We learn to trust that we have the strength to handle whatever comes our way, that we are worthy of love and respect, and that we are capable of forming healthy, meaningful relationships. Trust is rebuilt piece by piece as we reclaim our sense of self-worth, our boundaries, and our understanding of what healthy relationships look like. Healing the wounds is about reclaiming our wholeness. It's about coming back to ourselves, understanding that the scars we carry are not signs of weakness, but symbols of resilience and growth. We emerge from the healing process stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, not only toward others, but toward ourselves. Our wounds no longer define us. Instead, they become a part of our story, shaping who we have become and who we are continuing to become. Healing allows us to step into the fullness of our potential, free from the burden of past pain, and ready to live a life that is whole, authentic, and full of possibility. Empowerment through love and understanding is the foundation of true transformation, both for individuals and communities. Love, when it is genuine and unconditional, has the power to uplift, heal, and create profound change. It is the most powerful force in the universe. It's one that transcends barriers, dissolves fear, and fosters an environment where individuals can thrive. However, love cannot stand alone. It requires understanding to reach its fullest potential. Understanding allows us to see beyond the surface, to recognize the struggles, fears, and aspirations that drive people's behaviors, and to respond with compassion instead of judgment. This combination of love and understanding is what empowers people to rise above their circumstances, to break free from cycles of limitation, and to step into their true potential. Love is often misunderstood as a simple emotion, something we feel only in moments of joy or closeness. But love is far deeper than that. It is a choice, a force that we can cultivate in every area of our lives. It is the decision to see others as they truly are, worthy of respect, kindness, and dignity, regardless of their past, their flaws, or their mistakes. Love empowers because it removes the fear of rejection and failure, replacing it with a sense of belonging and acceptance. When we feel loved, we feel safe, supported, and capable of reaching for something greater than ourselves. It is through love that we begin to understand our own worth and recognize that we have something valuable to offer to the world. But love alone is not enough. It must be paired with understanding. Understanding opens the door to empathy, enabling us to connect with others on a deeper level. When we take the time to understand, we step outside of our own experiences and look at the world through someone else's eyes. We see their pain, their struggles, and their needs. And we respond not out of pity or obligation, but out of genuine care and concern. Understanding allows us to recognize that everyone is fighting their own battles and that the challenges they face are often far more complex than we may realize. With understanding, we are able to offer support in a way that is truly meaningful, not just in a superficial or transactional sense, but in a way that empowers others to grow, heal, and move forward. Empowerment through love and understanding is not just about offering support to others, it is also about embracing these qualities within ourselves. Many of us struggle with feelings of inadequacy, shame, or self-doubt, and these feelings can hold us back from stepping into our full potential. When we approach ourselves with love and understanding, we give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to grow. We stop viewing ourselves through a lens of criticism and judgment, and instead, we learn to see ourselves as we truly are. Human, flawed, yet deeply worthy of love and respect. This internal empowerment is the first step in being able to empower others. When we love and understand ourselves, we are more equipped to show up for others in the same way. Empowerment through love and understanding is also about recognizing the inherent power in every individual. Everyone has gifts, talents, and potential, but too often these qualities are buried under layers of fear, doubt, and past pain. When we approach others with love and understanding, we create an environment where they feel safe enough to uncover and embrace their truth. We give them the encouragement and validation they need to recognize their own worth and to step into their power. This doesn't mean that we should attempt to solve their problems or take on their burdens, but rather that we create a space where they can begin to see their own value and take the necessary steps toward growth. In communities, empowerment through love and understanding has the potential to create collective change. When we come together with a shared commitment to love and understand one another, we build a foundation of trust and cooperation that fosters collaboration rather than division. Understanding breaks down the walls of prejudice, judgment, and fear, replacing them with empathy and solidarity. It allows us to celebrate differences instead of being threatened by them. Empowered individuals who have felt seen and valued will work together toward common goals, knowing that their contributions matter and that they are part of something greater than themselves. A community built on love and understanding becomes a force for positive change, capable of addressing challenges with creativity, compassion, and resilience. True empowerment does not come from domination or control. It comes from the freedom to be who we are, to express our thoughts and feelings, and to pursue our passions without fear of judgment or rejection. Love and understanding create the conditions for this freedom. When people are empowered in this way, they are no longer held back by the fear of failure or the weight of past mistakes. They are able to take risks, to fail and try again, and to pursue their dreams with confidence. They understand that their worth is not defined by external achievements or the opinions of others, but by their intrinsic value as human beings. Love and understanding give them the permission to be authentic, to live boldly, and to contribute their unique gifts to the world. Empowerment through love and understanding also teaches us the importance of forgiveness. It is easy to become resentful or bitter when we've been hurt, especially if that hurt comes from someone close to us. However, holding on to anger and resentment only keeps us chained to the past. Love and understanding open the door to forgiveness, which is not about condoning or excusing the hurt, but about freeing ourselves from the grip of that pain. Forgiveness is an act of self-liberation. It allows us to release the past, heal from the wounds, and move forward with a sense of peace. When we forgive, we empower ourselves to embrace the future with hope, free from the burdens of past grievances. Empowerment through love and understanding is about creating a world where people are valued for who they are, not just what they can do or how they appear. It's about recognizing the inherent worth in every individual and supporting them as they grow into the best version of themselves. It's about shifting away from a mindset of competition, scarcity, and fear toward one of collaboration, abundance, and trust. Love and understanding are the bedrock of this transformation, and they are the forces that can reshape not only our individual lives, but also the world we live in. Through love and understanding, we can all rise together into our fullest potential. The power of empowerment through love and understanding is limitless. When we choose to approach ourselves and others with love, we tap into a force that can heal wounds, break barriers, and elevate lives. Love gives us the courage to be vulnerable, to trust, and to step into our purpose without fear of judgment. Understanding deepens our connections, allowing us to see beyond the surface and meet people where they are, offering not just support, but the belief that they are capable of greatness. Together, love and understanding create a ripple effect, transforming individuals, families, and communities, and ultimately shaping the world around us. So let us commit to this powerful journey of empowerment. Let us choose love in the face of conflict, understanding in the face of ignorance, and compassion in the face of hardship. When we do, we not only transform ourselves, but we become a beacon of hope, showing others the boundless possibilities that await when they are empowered through love and understanding. Together we can create a world where everyone is seen, heard, and valued, a world where everyone has the opportunity to rise and shine. The power to change is within each of us. Let us embrace it, and through love and understanding, empower one another to reach our highest potential.